And the question around Chelsea is whether they're in the worst shape currently out of all of the top 6 teams. I don't really have a recognised striker. Plenty of attacking players at Chelsea, but no, they also need another centre-back, don't they? Because they lost a couple in the shape of Rudiger and Christensen. They bought in Koulibaly, and some feeling that they need another midfielder as well at Chelsea at the moment. From what you saw on the pre-season tour, Darren, what do they need?
They need another defender because obviously they want to play with a 3 at the back. They need a striker desperately because they were playing with Michy Batshuayi, who simply isn't good enough to play for the club anymore. That's not being disrespectful, it's just a fact. You know, you only ever see him in pre-season, then he gets loaned out and then he comes back because they don't have the numbers. Sterling clearly will score goals, but you know what, he managed to score goals during the last 6-7 years because he was part of a very accomplished City team.
But Sterling's that good as well, Darren. I hate when I hear people disrespect Sterling.
No, but you're
mischaracterising
what I'm saying.
He gets some tap-ins as well.
What I'm saying is Sterling can't do it on his own. I'm not saying Sterling can't do it. I'm saying Sterling can't do it on his own because he's a wonderful player. But he was surrounded by cohesion at Manchester City.
Of course.
And Chelsea at the moment, they don't look as though they're that cohesive. As I say, I saw them against Arsenal. They were all over the place. After the match, Thomas Tuchel was scathing about his own team. And he said, look, I love this group, but I have to be honest. I'm not seeing commitment from these players. I'm not seeing... I've not lost 2 games in succession in pre-season. I can't remember when. We've got too many players at the club who want to move on, and that's another key concern from a Chelsea point of view. And he said, I don't know if we're going to be ready. He was asked in the press conference after the match if he felt that they would be ready for the game against Everton on the first weekend. He said, I don't know. I can't guarantee it.
I mean, I do think that Chelsea, they need a striker. Even though Havertz is a fantastic player, he did miss a lot of chances last year. But I think I like Sterling. Sterling can play that false 9. He does get tap-ins. He gets some strikers' goals that you think, it's just a tap-in, but there's a knack of that. Reading the game and getting in there.
You're making about Sterling, and it's not about Sterling.
Yeah, but I'm saying if he has to play there.
But what I'm saying is my concern is about the general state of the team, not about Sterling. There are no question marks about Sterling. He's proven. He's won 4 titles. We know he can score goals. We know he can score 20 goals in a season if need be.
What's in the youth?
Well, Broja looks as though he's going to go elsewhere. I'm very surprised Broja didn't play any pre-season minutes out in America because really you would have given him those minutes instead of Batshuayi, but he didn't get those minutes.
He done well last year at Southampton.
But it might well be that they feel he's not ready for the pressure that comes with leading the line for Chelsea. They were beaten to the punch for Robert Lewandowski by Barcelona, who seemed to be just waiting for Chelsea to make a move for players and then basically jumping in and taking whatever target they're in for. And if you look at City, they've got Haaland, they've got Alvarez. If you look at Liverpool, they've got Jota, they've got Firmino, they've got Salah, they've got Diaz. You look at Tottenham, they've got Son, they've got Kane, they've got Richarlison, they've got Moura who can score goals as well, Kulusevski who can score goals. I look at Chelsea and they do have Ziyech and Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi. But some of those players, they want to move on to play more regular first-team football. Werner hasn't justified the £45 million they spent on him. And so, as I say, Sterling can do it, but he can't do it on his own. It's not fair to ask him to do it on his own. And Tuchel himself was saying in that press conference, this is the situation I was most concerned about because we need those reinforcements if we're going to be able to punch our weight in this league, given the strength and the recruitment of the other teams.
But they need a couple more centre halves. You know, I've been speaking to Jason, who I work with on Sports Bar, and he obviously says if we started the season tomorrow, he would be worried about top 4. They need a couple more signings. They need to bring in a couple of centre halves. But I think Thomas Tuchel is a class act. I love the way he talks, everything about him. So I wouldn't be too concerned just yet because I think he knows how to get the best out of a team. I mean, losing 4-0 to Arsenal is never good, but it is pre-season.
Koulibaly in. Koundé looks like he's going to go to Barcelona. What more does Chelsea need to do, or do Chelsea need to do? We've got Tony Cascarino back with us. I was going to say, if you could give us a little bite-sized version of what you've written in the Times. You're saying that the squad's a mess. Do you fear for Chelsea this season?
Well, I looked at the squad over the weekend, and there's best part of 45 players in it, which is way too much. Now, within that, Laura, there's a lot of players whose futures at Chelsea are uncertain. You know, from like, you look at the weekend, you look at Emerson, you look at Aspilicueta, Alonso. You've got obviously N'Golo Kante, who didn't play, but who is again his future. And I think go through the squad and Batshuayi, players like that who have been out on loan have come back, and I feel that there's so much uncertainty within that squad. Take Timo Werner, who's made it quite clear he would like to go and move on and play elsewhere because he wants more game time for the World Cup. Now, that's littered in Chelsea's squad, where a number of players, I think way too many, and also you have to add in the departures at the top end of the club. Now, that doesn't always affect what happens on the field, but from Bruce Buck to Marina to Petr Cech, it's too much change at Chelsea. It's becoming a bit messy.
What do you think, Ali?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually agree with Cass. I don't get overly concerned, Cass, and I think Jamie agrees. I don't get overly concerned with pre-season results and pre-season performances. Of course you want to win, but I think we're all in agreement the main objective is to get your players fit for the start of the season. But the start of the season is coming. But the start of the season is coming very, very soon, and there is a little bit of a mismatch looking at that squad. You've mentioned the guys that I think won't be there very, very shortly, whether it's Emerson, Aspilicueta, Werner. You could actually name, if you go into Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, you could name 7 or 8 or 9 or even 10 players that could be on their way, Cass. But the most important thing, I think, for Chelsea supporters now is people coming incoming, because at the centre of defence, and they looked all over the place against Arsenal. I know it's pre-season, I'm contradicting myself a little bit. I know it's pre-season, but they did look all over the place, particularly the right-hand side of the part defensively. And I think Sterling will be a good signing, but I still think they need a centre forward that will get them 20-25 goals a season, mate.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right, you and Jamie, when you mentioned pre-season. I recognise that. I was talking about Everton last week within pre-season, and you have to be very careful how you assess a pre-season game. But within that, there is, we are coming to the end of pre-season, which you need to be a bit closer to. Is it, looking at the result of the weekend, was it that big of a surprise to considering what Arsenal did to Chelsea at the end of last season when they went to Stamford Bridge and literally battered them? So I'm always a bit conscious of pre-seasons, and rightly so. But if you listen to the 2 press conferences given by the managers, Arteta totally plays it down. It's a friendly. Okay, the momentum, it's great for that. We've had a good pre-season. He totally plays it down. And then you had Thomas Tuchel, who didn't play it down, who said lack of commitment, desire to get to closing down, all the hard stuff, the hard work he talked about within his squad. And I thought it was noticeable that a number of the players, and we've been there in pre-season, it looked like they were just not... They're thinking, well, I'm not going to be part of this first team or in the starting 11 this year. It felt that type of performance to me.
What do you think, if you could predict next season and you feel like who's going to be in the top 4, Cass, in your opinion, from what you've seen?
Well, I would still... I think Spurs will definitely make it. I would have said last season that I wouldn't have been... I wouldn't have said they would have made it. They did. I think this year, I think they look a far superior team. I definitely would, obviously, Man City and Liverpool. Nunes has got to work for Liverpool. But I would say Chelsea are fighting for that next spot. Whether they do it, at the moment, and it's not off a pre-season result. I think it comes down to what Ali said. If they can get enough out, which is going to be a bit of an issue because they're all on so much money. And then getting the right people in, Chelsea will be fine because they're financed to a level that they can really be aggressive in the transfer market and pay good wages. But if you said to me, have Arsenal got an opportunity here more than Man United, I would say yes. I would think, not because they beat Chelsea at the end of the season and in pre-season. I think Arteta's been long enough at the club to do what he needs to do to give the chance. Last year, although Arsenal didn't get there, I thought they learnt a lot, and I thought Arteta knew that this wasn't quite good enough. So I need to reinforce in what they did. I think Chelsea are very vulnerable to Arsenal this year. Now, Chelsea haven't got that much time to get things right for the start of the season because there's so much has happened at the football club. You know, from it being sold, new owner, loads of people upstairs moving on, and also the playing squad has had to be reinforced. So there's loads of change. Now, does that come at a price? I think it will do initially. It will cost Chelsea points, certainly in the early part of the season. I just can't see that much change being done for the start. So, yes, Tuchel in many ways is the type of manager we love to hear, and he's being honest on what he's saying. There's a bigger problem, though, for Tuchel is you take his midfield against Arsenal at the weekend. If you said to me Jorginho, Gallagher and Mason Mount were the midfield, that's a really, to me, a midfield that don't make challenges and is not it's more, you know, I would say out of all of them, Mason Mount would probably be the most tenacious. Jorginho's a player that I'm never quite sure how he fits in Chelsea. I always feel they've got other options that are better. And when he was voted, I was on air with Adrian Durham, and he was, saying, "Is he, could he be a Ballon d'Or winner?" And I said, "Well, he's not even in the top 3 best midfielders at Chelsea, so I don't see how that works." And that's, I think he's one of them again that could be out the club and probably knows what's going on behind the scenes.